Hello, Penn Staters, and welcome to the Football Letter Podcast. This week, we welcome the two new voices of Beaver Stadium, Rodney Martin and Joe Putnam. Rodney Martin, the voice of Penn State Ice Hockey at Pegula Ice Arena, he's taken on an increased role with Penn State Athletics, with women's ice hockey, and with plenty of other programs, including wrestling. We're going to get his perspective on what it's going to be like to be calling down and distance at Beaver Stadium this season. Rodney is a two-time Penn State graduate. He works as a research and development engineer at the Applied Research Lab here at Penn State's University Park. We're going to be thrilled to talk with Rodney, and Rodney's game day partner and good friend Joe Putnam is also going to be joining the show for us. Joe is currently the State College Spikes Director of Communications. Historically, he has been their play-by-play announcer and PA announcer. He also does color commentating for Penn State women's basketball, for Lady Lions basketball. Both are big time involved in Penn State athletics in the Penn State community. And Joe's responsibilities on Penn State football game day, he'll be doing pregame, halftime, postgame announcements, possibly some scripted in-game announcements. Basically, what you need to know, Rodney Martin, Joe Putnam, they're going to be the voices you hear on Saturday game days at Fall and Beaver Stadium, the best atmosphere in college football in the country. We're biased. We can say that. Really, really personally thrilled and happy for both Rodney and Joe, and we're thrilled that they're joining us this week on the podcast. Rodney Martin, Joe Putnam, I am psyched for Penn State football. I am so glad you guys are here. Thanks so much for taking some time and joining us this week.
It's an absolute honor, John. Thank you very much for having us.
Absolutely, John. We're really looking forward to it. For us, September 2nd can't come soon enough, and the season is upon us. So we really are looking forward to a great series of fall Saturdays at Beaver Stadium and looking to rock Happy Valley like it has for many years.
Well, let's start right there, and we can start with you, Joe. What's your reaction to having this new role? What's the personal significance for you, especially considering how invested you are with Penn State University and Penn State athletics?
Absolutely. I mean, this is truly a one-of-a-kind role, and I know Rodney and I are going to sort of be splitting duties, but there are not many places in the country that have the tradition, the atmosphere of Penn State football, and to be one of those voices, one of those prominent voices among the 108,000 plus is a big deal. I grew up just down the road in Bellefonte, born just over the left field wall at Mount Nittany Medical Center. So, in the shadow of Beaver Stadium, really, and growing up in those shadows, knowing what it's all about with the Nittany Lions, it's truly a thrill to be able to be on the microphone now at Beaver Stadium for football Saturdays, and being part of the greatest atmosphere, the greatest show in college football. So for me, it's an honor, it's a thrill, and I'm really looking forward to it.
How about you, Rodney? What are you most looking forward to?
I hate to be boring, but I just have to echo Joe's statement. I wasn't born in Bellefonte, though, just over the left field wall of Bedler. I grew up down a little bit further south of here, about outside of Harrisburg, but it was all Penn State when I grew up. When I out of high school and through high school and through my service, and I came here as a Penn Stater. I mean, I'm just all about it, and the fact that one of the first things that when I got to campus here as a freshman, I'll never forget was it was a very foggy January. And I was driving up Park Avenue, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's Beaver Stadium. And I was just like, wow, that thing is massive. Because I'd never been to a game, and we didn't really have didn't have tickets or connections to get tickets. But that was the first time I saw it in person. I was like, man, that's massive. And to be able to, like Joe said, to be a part of that atmosphere, the toughest place to play in the Big Ten, I just can't wait. Like I said, I was kind of like half and half nervous, excited. I'm getting a lot more excited now as we get closer.
Well, let's stick with you, Rodney, for a second, and we'll also get Joe's perspective on this. What was your initial reaction to learning that you had earned this new role? And, if there was anything about the behind the scenes work about, what the audition process was like that you're comfortable sharing, but really, when you got the thumbs up that you were going to be one of the voices, what was that initial reaction like for you, Rodney?
well, first off, it was relief because I have to say that the audition process, I understand that this is such a small role. I would say it's a small role, but there's a lot more going on in Penn State football. And the fact that they wanted to go with the 2 announcer system. We had been auditioning, turns out, for a couple months. And when I finally got the call to say, "Hey, we want you to be our next play-by-play announcer," I jumped. I was so excited. I was so ecstatic. I got the text at work to call, and I called, and they said, "Yes, you have the job." And I jumped right outside my office. And as soon as I got off, I got on the phone with my wife. I told her, and she was excited. She's one of my biggest supporters. But yeah, like I said, it was to go from the fact that, to see the first thing I saw with Beaver Stadium and how massive it is. Never in my life would have thought that I would have ended up being a part of that atmosphere. And to finally learn that, it was just an absolute euphoric experience.
And really, for me, a very similar. It's funny because I think Rodney and I found out we were both in the midst of the process because we heard each other at Beaver Stadium on the microphones there, sort of auditioning, testing things out. And so we texted after that, wish each other the best of luck, and to be able to learn not only I would be part of this as one of the announcers, but also do it with Rodney Martin, who's one of the best there is. It was just an absolute thrill for me again. And, had my, mom and dad in the loop on the process. And my mom said, "Now you got to be the first one to let you got to let me know before anybody else." But when I got the call, I was in the room with Scott Walker and Dan Petrozzolo here at the Spike. So mom was bumped off that list, but I told her about it. She's okay with it now. She definitely is super excited for me. And it really, after it came out, I think for Rodney and I both, just the amount of people who sent along their well wishes and were so happy for us, it was astounding to me. But at the same time, that's the reach and that's the power of Penn State football and the power of Beaver Stadium, the power of that atmosphere, and to be part of it. It just revs me up right now thinking about it because there are not too many places in the country where not only are you speaking with 100,000 plus people there, 108,000 plus people, but people that are charged up as much as they are by the pyro, the ballyhoo, everything that surrounds a Penn State football game, much less a nighttime game to start, a whiteout, those special events that make this a tough place for opponents to play and also make it a great place to experience a college football game.
So you said something, Joe, that I wanted to follow up on the friendship that you have with Rodney, the camaraderie, the chemistry. How much does that play into how much you're looking forward to this, the meaningfulness of this collaboration? I was wondering, what's that personal connection? How do you think that's going to help you in the press box on Saturday?
I think it's going to be a tremendous help. Rodney and I have now been working together on Spikes games for a few years now, and for these last 2 years, Rodney has been our public address voice for pretty much every game over here at Medler Field at LeBron O Park. I've been on the radio mic, and I will pinch hit on the PA mic from time to time when Rodney takes a well-deserved day off, or whether it's on the field running around. But we've talked every single day, throughout this season about what's coming up at Beaver Stadium, what's coming up with Penn State football season, how excited we are, how we can make this the best it can be. And really, being around each other now, we're going to be, in the booth with the greatest production team, Guido D'Elia, Dana Kraus, John Foreman, Rebecca Plesha, everybody else that makes it such a phenomenal production each and every time out. Being in there with them, but then being in there with somebody like Rodney that I've worked with and that we have a great relationship going in. I think that's going to make it even that much better and even that much smoother right out of the gate.
So, Rodney, in terms of preparing for these roles for Saturday at Beaver Stadium, can you take us through a little bit about the production process, the planning process? I believe you have a weekly meeting with Guido, who Joe referenced. the kind of the nuts and bolts, how are you guys getting ready for, welcoming 108,000 folks to Beaver Stadium this season?
Sure. Like you said, we have been having weekly workshops, I guess we call it, throughout the summer, or once we found out that we were going to be involved, and we just watched game tape. Like you see the players watch game tape. We were watching game tape. It's like, okay, here's the situation. This play just happens. Let's assume that this is, like, say we're up by 20 points and it's late in the game. How would we announce this? As opposed to, oh, okay, it's a really tight game. It's fourth quarter. We need this stop, or we need to get this first down. And between the four of us, it's like, okay, how do we want to do this? And then Guido has his view of how he wants to do it. So that's been instrumental for me. Because like I said, when you come into a job like this, especially something as public as this, you have like a preconceived notion of how you think it should be done, but then you take a step back at that and you say, okay, well, how should this be done, as opposed to how you think it should be done? Let's change the dynamic there. So those workshops have been great. But again, it's game film and it's practice reps. Once we get into the game, I think that'll help us there, but it's still going to be a learning process as we get into the first couple games. And then as far as, like, personally, I have been just trying to make sure that I get the pronunciations right. I have the entire roster from this year. I downloaded an app on my phone, basically old school flip cards. You have the number on one side. That's Bo Pegula, and then it's like you flip it over. It's like, yep, I got it right. I need to get the pronunciations right. So I'm just trying to go through that. I don't have the storage capability that, say, a Joe Putnam does, as far as, like, remembering absolutely everything he's ever heard. But I'm trying to get.
Hey, old school technology is good. I've learned from Steve Jones, from Brian Tripp, from John Black. There's nothing wrong with a piece of paper and a pen or a marker. And so, yeah, embrace the old school technology, Rodney. You said something, you both have touched on this a little bit. So, Joe, let me get your perspective on this. Like Rodney, a lot of experience in, different types of announcing. Even though this is a new role, it's still very much in your industry. As you're preparing for the season, how much of this is an art? How much of this is an art? How much of this is a science? How much can you prepare yourself while at the same time kind of keeping yourself open to experiencing what's happening in the moment and sharing that type of emotion?
To me, I think Rodney's is probably his role is more of an art. You never know quite where a game will take you. He's going to take you through the ups, the downs, the lulls, if there are any. My role is, pregame. Obviously, you want to get everybody hyped up for team arrival. Get everybody introduced to the atmosphere they're going to experience. Halftime. And post game, go through that. But a lot of what I'll be doing is pretty scripted. So for me, it's probably more of a science, whereas for Rodney, it's going to be an art, and it's going to be going on the fly a lot more to be in tune with that 108,000 plus. I'll be doing the same. There might be different inflections for different events, different reads, different parts of the game. But at the same time, a lot of it is just keeping the crowd where we want them, where Rodney has taken them. So for me, I'd say really is more of a science. There might be some fine tuning, but I think all of us are dedicated to making this phenomenal right out of the gate. Be there and take our best step forward and be right on with everything from day one. Will that happen? I guess we'll have to find out. But at the same time, we're very excited to make this as great of a show as it can be, and do whatever we can, Rodney and I, to make it the best show it can be, the best production it can be, the best atmosphere it can be for the Penn State Nittany Lions on the field.
So let's stick with you, Joe, for a question, because you mentioned Guido. And that's a name that a lot of Penn Staters know, have heard about, the architect of the whiteout. What's it been like working with him, spending time with him, and sort of what have you learned from him in some ways?
It's always a blast for me to talk with Guido. I learn something every time I talk to him. It's great too because we have conversations about all sorts of things, but it all, of course, hones back in on the task at hand, making the Penn State football show as great as it can be, making the atmosphere as great as it can be, and I think Guido, he's a visionary. He has a vision. He developed the whiteout, which is now, I think, pretty much universally recognized as the pinnacle event, single game event of college football that isn't a bowl game or a playoff game. If there's one game that you have to absolutely experience and be at, it's the whiteout at Penn State, and he's the guy that got everything going with that. So, but a lot of it too is just getting in tune with his vision, and getting in tune and making that happen with the help of a phenomenal marketing staff. I mean, Dana Kraus and company do an absolutely phenomenal job as well. I mean, we're really all in service to the vision of what this atmosphere, what this show can be at Beaver Stadium every fall Saturday that the Nittany Lions are on the field. And to be able to work with such a talented crew, from Guido to Dana to everybody else, it's just phenomenal. And I'm really looking forward to each and every fall Saturday here, and all of the work that leads up to it throughout the weeks, pre-planning for the preseason, and then even the week of game day, everything that comes together to make this the huge production that it is.
Yeah, and I know the perception is sometimes, summer in State College is a little low key. Not the case if you're preparing for the football season. You're listening to the Football Letter podcast. We are joined by Joe Putnam, Rodney Martin, two big-time Penn Staters. They will be the two voices of Beaver Stadium this fall. So, Rodney, I want to go to you for this question. Obviously, a lot of people know you from Pegula Ice Arena, the voice of Penn State men's ice hockey. Every time Penn State scores a goal, that's your calling card. And the arena yells back at you, Penn State. You've also taken on an increased role with Penn State athletics overall over the past few years, working more directly with additional teams. I was wondering, what have the last 2, 3, 4 years been like for you? How have you taken on an increased presence, and sort of how has that helped you develop your voice, having branched out to different sports, and I would imagine learning the intricacies of other sports?
Yeah, I mean, reps are as far as helping develop a voice, and just like in football, reps are everything, right? So every opportunity I will take it, as long as and I guess it also starts at home, right? I have a very supportive family. My wife, my daughter, they're always like, this is great. And then my wife will be the first one to say, do you think you might be taking on too much? So, but to have them support me and say, yeah, you can go do this. We know that this is good, and this is something you really like to do. So that's important. But as far as being able to work with all the different sports, I think it's great. Like I said, the reps are great, but also the different people. And like Joe mentioned, all those people, I've worked with all those people at individual sports. So I'm familiar with several of them. I mean, I can include Kathy Drysdale on that list as well, because I've worked with her at wrestling, and also in volleyball. So when I filled in volleyball, so being able to be there and to be in the atmosphere and to try to provide something. I mean, I don't want to be over too much, but I just to be able to add that and to be a part of those the sporting, and whatever it might be, whether it's, like I said, whether it's volleyball, whether it's soccer, field hockey. I know I know what a penalty corner is now in field hockey, so that's great. Done lacrosse, and it's just so much fun, and it's such a release for me. And I always go back to Joe Batista, who was the club coach when I first got here as a student. His thing was you should have a vocation and an avocation. Well, I certainly I have a vocation. I work at ARL, that pays my bills. Well, my avocation, the thing that I really get fired up for, is helping out at Penn State sports. So, and the fact that I'm able to do that, I'm so blessed to be able to do that as much as I do.
Coach Jurcic, and he did a great job of preparing all the quarterbacks throughout the past 2 weeks and preparing for this game. And yeah, I mean, I think just the preparation that we all put in as a room really paid off tonight.
So how exactly does that work? Like with him up in the box, like are they just feeding you like the stuff that he's saying from the box, or do you get to wear the headset?
Yeah, I get to wear the headset,
Okay.
so I get to talk to him directly, or the coaches communicate through him. Yeah.
The amount of
Drew,
weapons
was there
that you
one
have.
ball that you'd like back? One or two?
Yeah, there's definitely a couple. The one that comes to mind for sure is the dig route in the back of the end zone to Keandre, just because if I put it high and away there or up top shelf like we always talk about, it's either him coming down with another touchdown or it's incomplete pass. And I put it in harm's way right there, something we obviously as quarterbacks we never want to do. But he definitely just saved me, made a nice play on the ball, breaking it up for me.
Drew, there was a lot of talk this year about Keandre stepping up as the number one guy. I don't think there's any question that he can easily fill that role given what he did for you guys tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we have a ton of talent in that receiving room, and I think it showed tonight. Trey had a big night for us. Cephas had a couple nice catches tonight, and I mean, so did McLean. And McLean had a really solid camp, so it was great to see him get out there and find the end zone too. And he did a great job tonight. But yeah, Dre had an excellent game. Obviously, I'm not sure what his stats were, but he did a great job of communicating with me on the sidelines and vice versa. And he went out there and just really balled out for us.
Having all these different weapons, how is that going to set your offense apart and make it tricky for teams to scout going down the stretch?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can never have too many weapons on offense, and just all the different personnel groupings we can pair with it, make the defense have a hard time adjusting with motions. So it's definitely going to be something that we're going to take great pride in and help us throughout our future. And then obviously just building plays off of the plays that we showed on film to have counters to that.
You said you weren't specific that you do in practice that helps develop these connections so quickly that the comfort level is already so high in game one?
I would say just routes on air is a big thing for us because that's really when you get the true timing down for the routes, and obviously there shouldn't be any balls on the ground versus just being on air. So I think we do a great job as quarterbacks, receivers, and tight ends of taking pride in that and just ironing our timing out during the week.
Routes on
Air, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
How'd you overcome just being anxious? You said you weren't nervous, but you said you were anxious. What did it feel like to overcome that and just play as well as you did?
I mean, it felt really good. Really, it was the first snap out of the way when all my anxiousness went away. But yeah, I mean, I think the whole offense tonight did a great job of just being a well-oiled machine, moving the ball up and down the field. Obviously, we got to finish better in the red zone. Left a lot of points up on the board, but I mean, it's only things we can improve on.
How do you start your diary entry today?
You said what?
You go home, you write your diary today.
Yeah, Drew.
What do you remember about today? What's the thing that's at the top of that list?
I would say just the win, for sure. Obviously, it was a great team win, especially against an opponent like this. And I mean, it's just great that we came out with the win in general.
So we'll have just a few more questions for Rodney and Joe. And Rodney, we'll stick with you for a moment. You and Joe have both touched on a little bit kind of the relationships, what it means to be at Penn State, working with coaches, working with players. You know, looking at relationships, maybe that's one reason. Maybe that'll be part of your answer. What makes the Penn State community special? What distinguishes it from other places? Is it part of the relationships? Is it something else? And I ask this within the context of you're both so invested, you're involved with many teams, many people. And so while many people will hear you this fall at Beaver Stadium, you've also been a part of this community for a long time already. So, you know, Rodney, what distinguishes the Penn State community for you?
I have not met a Penn State fan that I don't like. I mean, everybody has just been so gracious, so welcoming. And I find that, you know, sometimes working a game, yeah, it can be, there's a lot of, you know, ups and downs of that game. You have ebbs and flows. Things are going great, things are going not so great. But through it all, everybody just, especially the people within athletics that I've worked with, people just want to put on a good show. They want to make sure that the product that we put out there from the production side is the best it can be. And there's no doubt that extends obviously to the coaches and players. I mean, that's the whole idea of it. But I have not met anybody yet, and I don't think I ever will, And I'm, like you said, I've been doing this for quite a while. This will be, as far as like hockey goes, this will be my 24th year of doing hockey of some level. I mean, I started with a club team and now moving to Division One. But absolutely everyone, I love working with everybody. Love interacting with them. Love interacting. I mean, even from everybody, like from the ushers, the ticket takers, the security, everybody there. They're just it's just such a great family, and just the camaraderie that we have. It's hard to describe, right? But I think as a Penn Stater, I think people see that, and that's what makes Penn State so special. I think sometimes you can have conflicting personalities, and there's no doubt we have differences of opinions sometimes, but we always get the job done. And like I said, I love working with everybody I've been able to work with throughout my time helping out with Penn State athletics.
Yeah, it's so well said, Rodney. And along the lines of relationships, I'm going to give a real quick story about Joe. So I moved back home in the summer of 2013. I was at a State College Spikes game. I'm trying to figure out how can I get involved in the community. Like I'll just start, doing freelance stories, pay me with a lunch every now and then. And I stopped somebody on the concourse of Medler Field at Lubrona Park. And I said, who's the media contact? Is there someone I can talk to? I just want to shake hands with them and introduce them. And they said, the guy's name is Joe Putnam. He's upstairs. And that was the beginning of like me knowing that Joe Putnam was in the know. And so Joe, kind of, along the same lines of what I was talking with Rodney, so much of this business is about kind of relationships. So with that as the backdrop, and you travel all the time with the Spikes and with the Lady Lions. And so you've seen other alumni communities and other universities. I don't like to ask like what makes Penn State better, but like kind of like what distinguishes Penn State, based on your extensive experience with this community.
I mean, to me, it starts with it's the largest alumni community there is in the world. There's power in numbers for sure. So anywhere you go, you're likely to find a Penn Stater, two Penn Staters, 100, 1,000, 10,000 Penn Staters. And that doesn't just go for the U.S. That goes for the world. But certainly we feel it most. Going around the country, every time I have some Penn State apparel on, I get a "We Are." It extends far and wide, and I think there's a kinship among Penn Staters that is unmatched. As a community, that "We Are" is not just a hey, I know Penn State. "We Are" is like, hey, we're there with you. Everywhere you go. So I think the close knit nature of the Penn State community is really what makes it the most special. And I think we see that most in evidence every football Saturday. I mean, yes, there's 108,000 plus going to be in that stadium, but how many more thousands are just out there, just tailgating, having a good time? They're coming for the experience. Hopefully, they're coming into the game as well. But they just want to be able to form that sense of community with their fellow Penn Staters each and every football Saturday. So, it's something, it makes it literally larger than life here. I mean, that for years and years growing up here, that was always something we heard. Oh, on Penn State football Saturdays, this is the third largest city in Pennsylvania. Well, I mean, it climbs up there pretty near the other two on football Saturdays nowadays. And to see so many people from both of those big cities, from Pittsburgh, from Philadelphia, from New York, from Baltimore, that all make the trek in. And then even those folks who are coming in, from down south, out west, from the Midwest, all the way here. Some of them are coming in to see an opposing team. Some of them are coming in just to experience what it's like on a football Saturday. But they're all coming here, I think, really to join that sense of community. And how many times have we heard fans of visiting teams, maybe not necessarily in the Big Ten, but that are rivals in the Big Ten, but non-conference teams. Fan bases like Alabama, like Oklahoma, come in and have nothing but great things to say about the sense of community they find with Penn Staters here in Happy Valley. And so I think that's what it is. It's that sense of community. It's that close-knit community that this Penn State community has. That's what really makes it special, is just how close everybody is, and that extends not just here in Happy Valley, but far and wide across the globe.
Yeah, you're spot on, Joe. And kind of just following up real quick, I remember when Auburn came up, we heard positive comments from Auburn fans during the weekend when they returned home the following week. And then when we went to Auburn the following year, their tailgates were so welcoming for Penn State fans because they had received that hospitality the year before. And real quick, you had mentioned, folks traveling in for the game. We also have alumni chapters all over the country. And we just swapped messages with the president of our Hawaii chapter. They're 6 hours behind. So for a noon game, folks in California, tailgate warriors get up at 9 a.m. Our chapter in Hawaii gets up at 6 a.m. for a noon kickoff. And so we're going to have them on the podcast this season. And so, we'll have to get the inside scoop on how do you prepare for a 6 a.m. Tailgate. So we'll get you out here on the fun one, and we'll ask both of you this. We'll start with you, Joe. What are you most looking forward to at Beaver Stadium this fall?
I go back to that sense of community, just being able. I mean, Rodney and I will both be the voices you hear, at the stadium, but we're a part of it. We are along there with the 108,000 plus at Beaver Stadium each and every Saturday. But just being able to be there with that crowd, to experience that crowd, to take them through the highs, the lows, the every single portion of a football Saturday, all the way from team arrival, all the way until the game is over. The blue band is there, and hopefully the victory bell gets rung. To be able to take them through all of that, that's what I'm most looking forward to. And it's a process that is days, weeks, months in the making, years, you might say, in some cases, just from things developing here at Penn State. But whether all that culminates in just those 3, 4, 5 hours, 6, 7 hours, if you throw everything in pregame and postgame, that we can take these fans on a ride, and hopefully a ride that ends up with a big victory. But at the same time, win or lose, we definitely want to give them the best possible experience they can have here, and so they get reminded of how special it is here at Penn State, and get reminded as well of how much they are part of the game day atmosphere here, which is just unparalleled across college football.
How about you, Rodney? What are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, for me, I mean, earlier we talked about like if it's an art or if it's a science. The only science that I see is for at least for what for my part in it's going to be is you have to be a fan first, right? So I'm looking forward to being a fan and having that new perspective on it. I've been to football games and being inside that mass. I think sometimes you can kind of lose perspective of that. One of my guilty pleasures is I like to watch reaction videos on YouTube. I'll go down like that rabbit hole. And it's funny when you see like people react to, for instance, like the whiteout game in Michigan against Michigan. Seeing people from like, other parts of the world that have no idea. It's like, holy cow, is football that big? I think we can lose perspective of that. And like I said, I've been in the crowd, and to be able to kind of take a step back from that and to be a part of that atmosphere in a way that's a little bit different, I'm really looking forward to it. Like I said, I've said this before, I get a massive rush working at Pegula. I get a massive rush basically working any announcing gig that I get. I love working at Medler, love working wrestling, all of it. But it's just going to be that times 108,000, think about, or what, it's just going to be incredible. And I'm really looking forward to get started.
Rodney Martin, Joe Putnam, two of the best guys you will ever meet, two of the best in the business, two of the best Penn State ambassadors. Personally, professionally, I am so happy for you guys. Congratulations. We're wishing you all the best, and we'll see you Saturday at Beaver Stadium this fall. Thanks for stopping by the podcast.
My pleasure, John. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, John.